If you have a business or a nonprofit or any kind of organization, you know that you have to get your brand in front of the right person at the right time. And the company to help you do that is Robyn Promotions. They have a full range of promo products, custom apparel, printed material, online company stores. They can help you get the whole thing set up. So give them a call, reach out to them, robynpromo.com, ROBYN promo.com. Check out everything they have to offer, then reach out to them because they can get you fully set up to get your name and your brand in front of the right person at the right time. That's robynpromo.com.
This is the Jake for the State podcast, and this is the call for every red-blooded, God-fearing, liberty-loving patriot to prepare yourself, take your position, stand your ground, and advance the cause of freedom. Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Jake for the State podcast. We are continuing to interview candidates here in the great state of Oklahoma, and one of the more significant races that I'm looking at is Congressional District 4 with Tom Cole challenged by Paul Bondar. Paul Bondar coming in from out of nowhere to challenge Congressman Tom Cole, who's been in office 22 years. And so this race is really heated up. Have Paul Bondar here with me today to talk about it. So welcome to the show, Paul.
Oh, thank you, Jake. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we just finished an interview from the show, from my radio show.
Yeah.
All you guys, you can also check that out. You can go to freedom969.com and check out that show. That'll be on June 13th if you might be listening to this at a later date. But Paul, I wanted to just kind of continue our conversation, maybe repeat some of the things we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
One of the, I guess, the thing when people think about this race and you in particular is the issue that's been highlighted in commercial after commercial, and that's where you live. So it's been emphasized that you live in Texas. Why are you coming up here to Oklahoma to run for this congressional seat? And I'll let you answer that.
Well, it's because our founding fathers have created a system that allows for people to break up monopolies. Let's be very clear. We have had a 22-year monopoly where no individual has been able to step up and actually challenge the status quo. I don't think Tom Cole has the right to be able to align with his rich friends in order to control a conservative district, and yet he has an F rating from the Heritage Group and other conservative organizations. So if you look at our government, the way it's made in a federal race like this, what I'm doing is actually by design of our founding fathers. If you can envision a Western movie with a corrupt sheriff and a gang of cronies that run the town, and a guy that rides in from out of town, and he cleans the town up, that's exactly what I'm doing. And I understand that the establishment is very offended in this regard because they're used to not having a real race. The fact is that our existing rep, he will dump millions of dollars in races, and he outspent JT, Mr. James Taylor, the last couple terms. Last couple races has been outspent by 7,000 to 1. This is not a republic. This is not a fair election to outspend somebody 7,000 to 1. And I have a little bit of a better chance, but right now they're dumping millions of dollars in against me. Why? Why do outside PAC dark money groups need to all rally around Mr. Cole to keep his campaign afloat, to dump in millions of dollars every couple days just to stop a guy like myself who never ran for politics? Jake, am I so dangerous because I moved my family from the Midwest during COVID because I would not submit to vaccine mandates? I would not humiliate myself by showing a vaccine passport to go into restaurants. And I said, forget this, I'm out of the Midwest, and I went to Texas to give my family freedom. And then I learned Texas has a lot of traffic, and I was involved with the midterms in 2022. I helped Jackson Lawmeyer. I helped John Bennett. I established some political roots in Oklahoma because I live closer to Oklahoma than I do to Austin. And and decided to run here. Am I that scary of a candidate because I'm a conservative? I think the answer might be because I'm self-funded. I am.
Well, scary to who is the question. Yeah. And so I think to the establishment, somebody like you would definitely be scary. Coming in without allegiance to outside groups. I mean, when there's money, there's strings, always. And so when we see this big money pouring into Tom Cole's campaign, it does raise a lot of questions. It does for me, and I'm glad you brought it up. With a 22-year record, you should be able to run on that.
Correct.
And when when Tom is depending on this big money to defend himself, and it really is not even defending himself, it's more attacking you.
Correct.
That's what I'm seeing anyway.
Correct.
And if anyone out there listening sees otherwise, let me know. But what I'm seeing are ads not saying, look at my record and all I've done, but it's Paul Bondar lives in Texas. Well, hold on. Tom, what have you done for Oklahoma? That's the question. And what does your 22-year voting record say about you? If we can't talk about that, I'm not sure we need you in for another 2 years. And so that's me. I'm getting on a soapbox. I apologize. But I hear what you're saying, and I agree, and I think a lot of people in District 4 agree as well. You know, I think it's time for a change.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about Illinois. I mean, you came down from up north, seeking refuge in a conservative state, seeking freedom.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Well, originally I grew up and spent the first 18 years of my life in the state of Wisconsin in a rural agricultural type community. Worked on my grandfather's sod farm. And so, you know, I was brought up with conservative values, and you know, I went to Illinois because I had a trucking insurance agency. It's a mecca. Illinois is a great central location if you want to insure trucking. It's the hub. It's the straw that stirs the drink. So sometimes in life you need to go where there's opportunity. I think the people that came to America did exactly that, and so I did the same. And I lived in Illinois, and I was able to grow a business where in October of 2008, when I opened the business up, if everything went perfectly for me, I was going to make $32,000. And it turned out that I worked 14, 15, 16-hour days. I basically worked double shifts. I had a lot of good fortune, and I ended up making $64,000 that year. So my evolution on, you know, where I am now has been based on a lot of work, and making a lot of right decisions. That's why I'm qualified to run for this congressional seat. I've been problem solving my entire career, and I've come from, I don't want to say nothing because everybody comes from something. We're all children of God, but I've come from basically scratch, and I am the embodiment, and I'm proud to say it, and having humility sometimes is speaking the truth. I am the embodiment of the American dream. The American dream does exist. Nothing was given to me. Big corporations fought me tooth and nail. The biggest insurance companies would fight me and be my competitors every single day. And so it's almost as if I've been in a political arena for 22 years by competing in the private sector. My point is going back to your question, after giving this background, Jake, I can tell you that Illinois was a wonderful opportunity because of the proximity of trucking customers that I could work with and represent. However, after we lost a Republican governor in Illinois, Chicago is really, like most liberal large cities, is really the pit and the ruination of most great states. And once J.B. Pritzker became elected, you know, during COVID, it became the Iron Curtain of Illinois. Draconian and difficult COVID-type practices. And if anybody knows me, I'm not going to bend a knee and submit to this type of tomfoolery. I will protest them. I will not wear a mask. I will not submit to a vaccine mandate. And as your new leader, as your new representative, over my dead body will I ever allow the WHO to come into our district and gut out and remove our local state authority and local authority. And that's what I'm afraid of our current rep is going to do, because he's already buckled on FISA. And as a matter of fact, he was the deciding vote on FISA, which allows the government to spy on us. And I'm not talking negatively about my opponent, but I do believe we have to have accountability based on voting record and the facts. And while he wishes to slander me for living a couple years in the state of Texas in order to get my family out of the and give them in a conservative environment, I'm going to continue to talk specifically about his voting record. The government can spy on you now. I raise your hand out there if you like the idea of the government being able to see everything you do on the internet and all your banking transactions. He was the deciding vote on that April the 12th. And funny thing, coincidentally, once he did that, he got the appropriations chair right around the same time. I wonder how that works. Well, just must have been coincidence because that's how Washington is, right? It's just always, there's never any backroom deals. It's always everything's a coincidence based on merit.
Right. Well, another concerning vote we saw in cast was dealing with red flag laws.
Yeah. Gun control. So, I mean, when people are like, well, what do you not like about flags? Flags are great. What's wrong with red flags? Well, the red flag here is the voting record of our representative, which said he voted for a gun control provision where service people, when they come back, if they have any emotional distress, without committing any crime whatsoever, somebody can just make a claim. Hey, I think this person, they might be depressed. So they can then be disarmed and they have to give up their weapons. This is a slippery slope because in America, we're innocent until proven guilty, but he passed a law that says you're guilty until you're proven innocent. So I'm against gun control. We must keep this country free without firearms. And I'm not just talking about muskets or hunting rifles. I'm talking about firearms because we must be able to protect ourselves from other outside governments and also be a deterrent from tyranny of our own government. And if that may sound radical, well, then every single member of our Constitution and our original founding fathers, then I guess they're radical. And if somebody that lived a couple years in Texas who moved in order to get away from vaccine mandates, disgustingly high taxes, cold winters, and wanted to embrace a conservative place to raise his kids in a non-woke environment is a problem for Oklahoma, well, then you can call me Big Tex all day long, but I embody conservative values. And what I realized is that Oklahoma is even a better place than Texas and even more conservative. So it made sense for me to make a transition to Oklahoma.
Paul, I got a couple of questions. How can people be confident that you yourself will not be sucked into the DC swamp once you go there? And once you go there, how can they be confident that you'll come back and actually engage with the people of the district?
You can't, because you people we've all been burned and our leaders have betrayed us over and over again. And fool me once, shame on me, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We have been betrayed by our leaders. Again, raise your hand if you feel like our existing leaders are working for you. Raise your hand if you think our government respects you. I certainly don't. Raise your hand if you think our government is selling us out and is putting in policies to take away our freedom. And they're colluding with global organizations to strip America and bankrupt this country. If you think those things, then we agree. And that's why I'm running. But you shouldn't just take my word for it. And that's what you got to do. What you need to do is look at the voting record of our existing leader. Why does he have an F voting record when other reps within our district, other United States congressmen have, most of them are in the 90s? Contrast his voting record to a Kevin Hearn or a Josh Burkeen. And at the end of the day, if my voting record isn't there, I should be thrown out on my keister too. The point is that you have to put up or you got to shut up. And if your voting record and your actions are not tied to your actual words, you're not telling the truth. Actions speak louder than words. I don't care what all this dark money has to say about me. I know where I'm at, and I think the people do care about the voting record of our current representative.
No doubt. I mean, you brought up two great conservatives here in the state. I always highlight Josh Burkeen. One of the things I love that he does is coming back frequently to his district, making those town hall circuits, visiting, I don't know how many it is, 16 and 12 days or something like that, a crazy schedule. And so, I'd ask you the same thing. Would you be willing to do something similar of doing a town hall across your district?
That's exactly what I have laid out in my proposal. I want to take what we have right now in our district and turn things 180 degrees around. So I ran a business for 22 years. If I ran a business like our current representative runs this district, I would have been out of business really quick. First thing, we have 3 different field offices, one in Ada, Norman, and Lawton. Do people even know it? Are there boots on the ground? There's people being paid. There's rent being paid. I want to, number one, have those offices be local facilities for people to be able to go to and interface with, and then conduits to be able to bring those issues that can't be resolved to me. The other is the district needs a state of the district update union, like the president does, like state of union address. We will do that with the district. Third, for people that don't know, I've already offered what I propose to clean up the Congress and start to drain the swamp. I call it the 50-50 plan. You know, our founding fathers, Jake, they said, this should not be a career. You should not be in Washington for 22 years or even a decade in the same position, especially. And even worse, you shouldn't be just penned up in a fishbowl in an aristocracy where it's a bunch of elites that don't have to live under the same laws that they make for everybody else. I propose that we spend 50 as every representative, not just me, but I'll lead by example. Every representative spends 50% of their time in DC, 50% of the time in their home state. And people are going to, in the elites are going to say, well, we can't do that. We have business in DC. Well, they've made a system to keep people penned up for reasons to be in DC so that they're not back in their home state. And you know what happens after a few years? When you don't see your spouse for a few years, what happens? You get infidelity that starts creeping in because the relationship starts to break. Well, after decades of not being around the voters and only coming around during voting time because you want something from them, and doing a 10-minute photo shoot in a military base to look like you support the Marines or the Army or the armed forces, people can see that's disingenuous. And I believe what we need to do is we need to have people mixing. Our representatives need to go back. And I'm not, again, just talking only about my particular situation across the board, across the country. People need to come back to the communities they serve. They need to look the people in the eye, shake their hands and address their questions and say, hey, Mr. Representative, why did you vote to be able to allow the government to spy on me? Well, I don't want to come back and have to answer that question. So I'm going to hide and I'm just going to make a bunch of commercials. That's the model we live under. Live under a model where they do what they want. They live in DC and then they dump millions of dollars of commercials. They don't ever actually speak for themselves. They have consultants that do all the speaking for them. They hide behind the camera and they don't mix with the people. It's a broken system and I demand that Congress reforms and we fix this now. That's one of the ways we drain the swamp. I have a number of other ideas, but it goes back with accountability. And Jake, one last thing, if we can't get a real budget passed, which we haven't since 2015, which actually wasn't even a real budget, but we're living off of continuing resolutions. If we can't get a real budget passed that's reasonable to curb this inflation and this out of control spending that's going to bankrupt this country, no member in Congress should be paid. Their salary should be suspended. That's a fact. And this is why millions of dollars are now coming in to try to fight Paul Bondar for the evil sin of taking his family from the Midwest, living a couple years in Texas before he wants to move to Oklahoma. Hey, if that's too big of an issue for you, then you deserve 22 years of Tom Cole. But if you want freedom and you want somebody that's going to go to Washington and is going to back you and fight for you and get the boot off your throat so you can breathe as an American again, well, then maybe you might want to start thinking about voting differently.
Good word, Paul. Trump came behind Tom Cole, and this has raised a lot of eyebrows for people here, especially when you look at the voting record and you see the F rating on Tom Cole and you see Trump getting behind him. Personally, I don't understand that endorsement. And hey, all I can say is Trump's not perfect. He's been wrong before on certain things. I think he missed the mark on this one. But it is interesting where it appears Cole may have Trump's support. I asked, does Cole give his support to Trump? And, you know, when we look at what happened look at where he put his money. And it looks like he was backing Haley. Yes. When Haley was an option.
Yes.
So all of a sudden Haley's out and now he's buddy with Trump. Raises some eyebrows, raises some questions and concerns for myself.
Yeah, again, you have to look at what people do, not what they say. And first of all, we all know that President Trump has been pulled into a two-tier justice system. And the Big Apple, like I said just a few minutes ago on your radio cast, the Big Apple is now the rotten apple. We see how justice is happening. Now, this so-called Trump endorsement, a couple things. Trump was in the courtroom when this happened. I had been told that we were a favorite to get the endorsement, but you know what? We're going to give our current rep a real race, and for some reason, all of a sudden, he wants to hitch his wagon to Trump in Oklahoma because Trump is popular. But when we look at the actions of our current rep, I think people, just based on the facts and logic, they can see that something doesn't square. How is it that he wants to get the Trump endorsement, but yet he donated, our current rep donated to Susan Collins' campaign thousands of dollars, and Susan Collins voted to impeach Donald Trump? Well, that doesn't make any sense. And as you said, why did he support Nikki Haley financially? Well, that doesn't make sense either. He's giving money and support to somebody that's running against Trump. And I believe he also provided financing to Mike Pence, who also was running up for a while against Donald Trump. So it seems like he's financially supporting anybody but Trump. And some of these people have flat out said they won't even vote for Donald Trump. They'll be voting for Joe Biden. So what we really have is we really have seen based on actions that when it's good for Tom Cole to be able to support Donald Trump, he will when it's good for Tom Cole. But when Donald Trump needs it, he's not there based on his actions. Not words, actions. And I would say we all know the precarious situation that Donald Trump is in based on the court ruling. The point is that if he loses a few Republicans in the House that are in there right now, he could be possibly taken off the ballot. I think that's what the situation. So don't worry, President Trump. Blink twice if you need help. Paul Bondar is coming on June 18th. You'll have a real person that's really going to defend you, that's not going to give money to your opponents, and is going to take care of embracing American first policies and working with you and showing that based on my actions.
Paul, as you've gone around the district, what are you hearing from the people? What are they saying they want in a representative?
Number one issue, people feel absolutely betrayed and abandoned. You know, we have 15% now poverty in this district. I went to Chickasha a while back when I started, going around the district. I've been to, I think 104 different places now with meetings, right? Since supposedly this PAC that spends millions of dollars, they say I'm a Texas guy that doesn't even campaign in Oklahoma. They went back to my birth certificate, and I think they're trying to say that I wasn't even born in this country or something, but I'm a Russian spy or who knows what. The fact of the matter is the people here are hurting and they feel betrayed. As a matter of fact, so do I. We don't have to go back very, very long. 2020, what did we have? We had an election that reeked of improprieties. If people don't like it, well, I'm sorry, lump it. When you put cardboard up in Detroit and you kick poll workers out in Detroit, and when Trump was ahead in Michigan, and then you kick poll workers out and you put cardboard on the windows, that doesn't speak of transparency. And if people don't like that I'm saying that there's some irregularities with the election, well, they can take it and they can stuff it, because I'm not going to be censored. And I'm tired of the conservative voice being censored and bullied. I have a right to my opinion just like everybody in the district does. And I'm tired of the federal government and the left-leaning media being the marketing arm that's used to censor the voices of the American people and conservative values. And so when I hear this, this is what's resonating with people in the district. They feel the same way. We as a group of Republicans and conservatives, we've been abandoned by our leaders. They're not working for us. They're working against us. And it's been more of the same. And what's going to get better? Nothing. Most of which, there's really, Jake, the reason after going through this process, I would say this. We have two political parties mainly in this country for one particular reason. So one can blame the other one and vice versa, and nothing gets done. And really, when it comes down to it, we have a uniparty. And then you have guys like myself who want to come in and they want to break up the monopoly, break up this so-called uniparty, but I'm really limited because it's myself against a political machine. And you see that play out exactly in this situation. Otherwise, you wouldn't have millions of dollars coming in to stop me and talk about nonsensical issues rather than the voting record and the vision and plan of what our existing rep is going to accomplish. We've all seen what he's done in 22 years. I ask everybody out there, what do you like specifically about what you got in the last 22 years? What do you like? You like him on gun policy because he just voted for gun control. You like him because he voted on April 12th to spy on us with the government and was able to get an appropriations chair possibly out of that vote as a deciding vote. Do you like him supporting Susan Collins financially, Nikki Haley financially? Do you like the fact on May 1st that he didn't even get out of bed to support our Bible? And now the House of Representatives have passed that verses within our Bible are considered to be hate speech. There's a lot of Christians I've gone to and met with a number of pastors in the district. As a pastor, as anybody that loves God in this district, and I'm a Christian myself, I'm outraged by this. Do you like our existing rep not showing up on May the 1st, and now verses of our Bible are considered to be hate speech? And this is like George Orwell, 1984. I can't believe that this stuff is real. What's happening next is a slippery slope. If verses right now are hate speech, some other group is going to say, well, I'm gay, I'm trans, and the Bible says that's a sin, so I want the Bible to be banned. Sure, they've opened the door for it. Maybe all of religion should be banned. Just keep in mind, separation of church and state is to protect the church from the state. It's not to remove religion out of this country. And we are being attacked in all different ways, shapes, and forms. And our leaders, they're not only buckling because they're spineless, they're the ones that are driving the bus in most cases.
Paul, you mentioned the liberal media, and when you say that, I think of the largest newspaper here in Oklahoma, the Oklahoman, that is most definitely leaning left. Seen it time and time again, and it was interesting that they actually attempted to connect you with Russia.
Yeah. Like we haven't seen that playbook before.
Right.
I guess I'm becoming more like Trump every day, for the exception of I try to be a little nicer, but politically, it's the same playbook, Jake. You're right. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, well, I just found it interesting, exactly what you said. It's like this desperate attempt to... It seems like that's their go-to. If they want to undermine someone's credibility, they try to link them to Russia in any way, shape, or form. And you're a guy from the Midwest, come from agricultural background, played football. You don't look Russian, don't really sound like you're Russian. So obviously, I think this is pretty laughable.
Well, it just goes to show the desperation of the political regime when they have somebody that can actually afford to put TV commercials up like myself. And I'm exposing the truth, and I'm exposing their donors. And they're uncomfortable because they have a group called Americans for Security. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to know, you need to follow the money. You need to follow the money and understand who controls the narrative and where our candidates are being backed. Americans for FOR, and then they have an alias. Why would they have a second name? Americans with the number 4 Security. And why are the headquarters on their federal filing forms for a PAC, for dark money? Why is it based on a retail store in rural Wisconsin at a Staples store? They're saying that they're operating, get this, they're operating a political PAC in rural Wisconsin at a retail store. That's the phony, bogus address. It's very fishy. Yet, this organization has donated even more money than what Cole's put up. Cole's not really even spending his money. He spent a couple million. This group has now surpassed, I believe, last report, $6 million just to talk about me coming from Texas, and I have to be stopped at all cost. Why? Because I have a clean record, and don't you know that they would love to find something else on me? And now the Oklahoman was pressured into him, in my opinion, releasing a story because I'll tell you why. It's laughable, but it's really not funny. It's the same playbook that they use against Trump and anybody that's not in the uniparty. I had a 1099 worker who a year ago rented an apartment from a real estate company, or apartment company, because it was being sublet by individuals who I believe were subletting it from who actually were Russians who sang at a party where Putin was. So the title of this article was Texan has has relationships with Russia and Putin. And then there was a paywall where people had to pay to actually get the information in order to read the article. So the title by itself is damaging. You know, the Oklahoman, I just found out, was already sued and lost $25 million for libel and slander recently. And that's why they're no longer at the Channel 9, the Griffith owner. Right. Had bought them out because they just got themselves on the short end of the stick for libel and slander and lost $25 million. And now they're in some sort of small hole in the wall as a result. Here's the deal. You know, you may have another lawsuit coming if you keep purporting and reporting sci-fi like this. Right. You know, it's very odd, but I think it just goes to show you when people actually start looking at any feeble attempt to stop me, and when they can't find anything about me that's problematic, they go to this Russian story. Yeah. I guess I'm more like Trump than I thought. You know, supposedly going back to the endorsement, I've been criticized by Mr. Cole because I have a nice house. Well, Mr. President Trump, who he took the endorsement from, has the nicest house in Mar-a-Lago, right? So he's willing to take an endorsement from him, but you can't vote for me because a poor guy that grew up with nothing that made it in this country bought a nice house. President Trump was self-funded on his campaigns. I'm self-funded in campaigns, but our current congressman said, no, that's a bad thing. You need to use dark money like me and be bought and paid for. And, you know, when you look at the hypocrisy of these types of things, and now we have a Russian thing that they're trying to throw out there, which has taken off like a lead balloon. Everybody can just see, Jake. They can see the facts and they can see what the real situation is here.
Well, I'll tell you, Paul, I said this earlier on the radio show, and I meant it. I had no intention of announcing anything concerning you or this race. Still thinking about things, but just sitting here with you, hearing from you, and considering where we've been for the last 22 years and how we desperately need change, I proudly endorse you for this race.
Thank you.
And you have my vote. I'm actually in your district, and so I'll be voting in this race, and I'll be voting for you because I believe that what you're saying is authentic, and I don't think you're lying. And I think that, hey, in 2 years, if it found out you are lying, we'll vote you out.
Absolutely.
But that's the way it works, right?
Should be.
Right now, we have a guy in there that's proven he's not listening to the people of Oklahoma, so he's got to go. It's as simple as that. And I think that you are authentic and real. The things you're saying resonates with me, and I think a lot of Oklahomans and those in District 4. So I just encourage you out there, guys, if you're listening, listen to what he's saying. I can tell you from firsthand experience, sitting across the desk from him, I know when a guy's lying and when he's not. And I believe you're telling the truth. So I encourage all of you out there to cast your vote for Paul Bondar. Let's get a fresh face up there, fresh voice, and hopefully turn a page and start a new chapter here in District 4.
You know, if you want to send somebody to Washington that's going to go kick some liberal butt that's not bought and paid for or in the tank, I'm the guy. And what do I want for it? I already made money in business. What I really want is I want to have a name that's built for my kids to stand on, for respect and a legacy for my children to say, boy, your dad went out on a limb and he did something great, and he backed us when nobody else would. That's all I need, and really, that's for my children. And I want my children to be able to grow up in a country that still allows them to have conservative speech. You know, when you can lose your job because you say the wrong thing, that is absolutely bunk. That's BS. We cannot live in a country that suppresses conservative speech. We must remain a country of freedom, of free speech, protecting, and the only way we'll do that is if we protect our Second Amendment rights. And that's why I'm proud that the OK2A has endorsed me. I'm proud that the OK HPR, Health and Parental Rights, has endorsed me. People know that I'm going to fight for freedom. I'm going to fight for parents to have the rights. And over my dead body, will I ever allow the government to mandate any kind of vaccines and assault your children or assault you where you're forced to do something against your will? Now, if you want to take a vaccine, this is a free country. Well, at least it used to be, and you should have that right. But to be forced or coerced into any kind of situation against somebody's free will is absolute tyranny, and I will never stand for it. So I pledge to people in this district that I am going to work very hard to bring back conservative traditional values, and that is why I'm the best fit here. I can't, if you want a moderate, I'm not your guy, and I cannot exist in a moderate 50-50 type district where I have to tiptoe and walk on eggshells. I want to be the absolute opposite of like an AOC as a conservative that's going to help bring this country back to center, because we're being pulled so far by the left and all of our Republicans continue to keep buckling. We have to have new leaders. We have to have leaders that are going to actually say what they're going to do and do what they're going to say. And well, that's all I can say. It's that simple.
It is that simple. And you guys can go to electbondar.com. That's electbondar.com to find out more about him and his campaign. Paul, appreciate your time here today.
Jake, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to get the truth and my voice out. And you know, if the establishment fools people, they're just going to keep laughing at you. Self-funded guy that wants to take on a political machine, and if you're tricked and you're fooled and you keep voting for the same thing, well, I hate to say it, you kind of deserve to get the same results. But it's not fair for the next generation of people. And that's why I'm not going to give up. And we're going to keep fighting the fight, because we cannot lose this country. And Oklahoma needs to be the beacon of conservative values.
It's Paul Bondar, guys. Go check it out, electbondar.com. Paul, appreciate you. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. That does help get this out, get the podcast out, get the show out, so that more people can hear from the candidates who are running and make an informed vote. You got to vote, but you have to vote with an informed way. You need to know who you're voting for. So that's the reason I do this. I want to get the candidate in front of you to hear directly from them, so you know who you're voting for. And so you had a chance to hear from Paul today. Spread the word, share this, and subscribe so that you get a notification every time we have a new interview coming up. All right, guys, appreciate you. Until next time, I'll see you.